I need to figure out what makes David Baldacci's novel The Hit so good. What did he do right that I did wrong? I did something wrong in my James Grider novel because it receives a lot of animosity and disinterest. However, The Hit has probably made a decent amount of money, probably several $1,000s. I need to figure out how to write the way The Hit is written, and to attain the same level of talent that went into writing The Hit, so I can be just as successful an author. First two things to jump to mind is The Hit is much shorter than my novel, so it's a lot easier to get through, so maybe that's what makes it so attractive. The Hit also has idiomatic phrases in it that I could not have thought of myself, that I might pilfer to use in my own writing. But that's where all the positives of that book seem to end. And I mean, if the positive about your book is that it is slightly useful as a dictionary of idiomatic phrases, I don't know what to say to that. This is the kind of writing we get in The Hit. As an example, the writing style is something like this. He looked at the clock. It was 3 p.m. His phone rang. He picked it up. It was his office. This isn't a literal quotation out of the book, but that's how the whole book kind of reads. The writing is really cheesy. The characters are wooden, all of them. They don't have any interesting philosophies or personality qualities that make them stand apart or stand out in any way. Dirk Pitt, for example, is like a comic book character, but compared to Will Roby, he has 100 times more of a personality. Basically, this book is just filled with characters that are cliché, and they are just names. There is nothing memorable about Will Roby. You will forget he exists, or that you even read about him. If you ask me to describe him, other than he's a government assassin who is kind of a dour, that's pretty much all I can tell you. There is literally nothing. There is literally zero uniqueness to him. Then we have the writing, and I'm glad somebody pointed out at least 3 of these ridiculous samples. When you listen to this on audio, the narrator, I guess, is skilled enough where he really knows how to make all of this sound so natural that you just go along and don't catch how ridiculous it is. You never catch that this writing is really awkward when listening. But when someone actually quotes this and points it out to you, you bust out laughing. The eastern shore of Virginia was not an easy place to get to by car, bus, or plane, and no train went there. Roby opted to drive. I just want to analyze this little paragraph, or whatever. I think what the author is implying is that the eastern shore of Virginia is rural and isolated, which it kind of looks to be. Why it's not an easy place to get to, I have no idea. It has a bunch of little towns, but they're all connected by highways. It's not like there is no roads at all, or some really shitty dirt roads, so I don't get it. If the implication is that it's a really rural place, then why not simply state that? Next thing is he lists car, bus, and plane together, but the train gets a separate sentence. Why? I feel like that would be done for a dramatic effect. For example, you write, her sister died, And the next sentence is, and a year later so did her mother. So the reader feels the double whammy or the double shock of these two separate events spaced apart, and that's why you space them apart into two sentences. I just have a feeling that such a trick would create a greater impact on the reader if you separate those two dramatic pieces of information into two sentences for dramatic effect. But here, there is nothing dramatic about the fact that no train goes there either. It's almost like the reader is supposed to finish reading the first sentence and say, oh, so no bus, car, or plane, but what about a train? Oh no, no train either. What? Are you serious? No fucking train either? Oh no. See how dramatic of an impression it makes to phrase it like that? Except this is not dramatic information. It has no effect on the story whatsoever. If you are depicting a rural place in the sticks, why don't you fucking describe the locale and how long the drive takes or something? Give a sense of what the place is supposed to be so we can actually imagine being there. This is like a middle schooler's way of conveying a thought that only someone as perceptive as me can actually deduce what they mean. But it really sounds stupid. Then you have Roby opted to drive. That's funny. But it says it's not easy to get there by car. Why? Why is it not easy to get there by car? There are paved highways running through there. I know it's a silly thing to get hung up on, but as a writer you have to have an instinctual grasp on something like this. Then we have, Roby knew how to exit quietly. He did so now. This is breaking the cardinal rule of showing and not telling. What did he do to exit quietly? Tiptoe his way out? See, to say that he tiptoed his way out, that would be showing it. Simply saying he exited quietly is just telling. Yeah, I wonder why when I listen to this, I just want to zone out, and nothing in the book seems to resonate. I mean, it's really fast-paced, and you think it would hold my attention, but no, and the reason has to be shit like this. Like bullets, but unlike bullets, rain leaves you alive. In competition for silly metaphors, the book compares falling raindrops to bullets, and then tells you that unlike bullets, rain leaves you alive. Well, thank you. I don't know what it is, but you just want to laugh at that. It's almost like saying that the water is liquid like acid, only unlike acid, water doesn't burn you to death. You see kind of why that would sound funny? Let's examine the booby-trapped cabin idea. Why devise a system where the cabin explodes when Roby opens the door, but somehow he can jump away from the explosion in time, unharmed, and that ends up putting him between two walls of fire shooting out of the ground that will force him to run toward a pond filled with combustible liquids, so once he dives into the pond will catch fire and kill him. If you want to kill the person that just stepped outside the door, and opening the door is what triggers the trap, why wouldn't you put the bomb right under the door? If you rig up a system that makes two walls of fire to trap the hero between them, why not just have the fire go off right under his feet and burn him right there? He's on the porch, so just put the explosive under the porch where his feet would be. The only way it was like it was is because it's contrived, because the writer doesn't know how to make the hero survive this explosion. So he just turns the booby trap into some kind of bullshit, so it's survivable. Then there are very basic firearms mistakes. My book probably has firearms mistakes too. For example, in my book I think I called something a submachine gun that's not a submachine gun. But what he has here is way worse. Disassembling a 9mm one-handed. That's actually possible. There are videos of people doing that, disassembling pistols one-handed. Except, she did it while the gun is loaded. Not safe to disassemble a loaded gun. Then it says he was shot with a .357 that luckily jammed. Well, a Magnum .357 is a revolver, so it's not going to jam. The hammer might hit on a dud round, but all the bad guy has to do is pull the trigger again, and the next round in the chamber won't be a dud. And then it says he pulled back the hammer on his Glock. There must not be a hammer on a Glock that you need to pull back, as the trigger is double action. The ballistics of a bullet could not be determined because he pulled the firing pin out of the rifle. It's the barrel that leaves the striations on the bullet, and the barrel is what the forensics would have to find to match the bullet to a rifle it was fired from. You could, of course, easily alter the striations the barrel leaves, so even if the cops got hold of it and fired another round, the striations wouldn't match. The ones that are left in the new round wouldn't match to the ones from the round recovered from the crime scene. The firing pin just leaves an indentation on the shell casing. He also writes in one instance that the further the bullet travels, the more its kinetic energy increases, which goes against fundamental laws of physics. This almost sounds like something you see in a movie or an anime where some kind of magical attack is launched by an anime character, and this attack becomes stronger and bigger and faster as it travels through the air. It's like they took that mental image and applied it to a sniper bullet. Let's see, what else does this book have that's stupid? Neo-Nazis. The threat of white supremacist militia groups is growing in increasing numbers. That's what's mentioned in the book. Because we all know white people are the biggest terrorists, right? The fairy tale of white supremacy. Gotta keep pushing that fairy tale. Colin Flaherty's channel exposes that fairy tale. But in every movie, in every book, they love showing white supremacist gangs, white supremacist militias, them running around committing crime, constantly attacking black people everywhere. And in the real world, that's nowhere to be seen. So we get a little bit of that propaganda tossed in here, along with feminist propaganda. Roby climbs a brick wall. I have no idea how that's possible. I guess I've seen brick walls where every other brick is extruded out sometimes for decorative reasons. But usually that's done on corners of buildings, but I can't understand how the entire fucking building is like that. It explains that the reason he can climb a brick wall is because his fingertips are strong like steel from pulling the trigger on a sniper weapon his whole life, and that's why he can climb a brick wall. Now, fingers are manipulated by tendons in the forearm and in the palm of the hand. Fingers don't have muscles of their own. Not to mention it only takes one finger to pull the trigger, so why would all his fingers be strong from the exercise of firing a sniper rifle every once in a while? And is the trigger really so tough that you end up developing fingers strong like steel to pull it? It says that after climbing a brick wall, he perches on a windowsill and uses his penknife to pry open the window. How fucking wide is that ledge for a full-grown man to perch on? I don't know. It doesn't say. Apparently, this brick wall is made for rock climbers and has super wide ledges on the windows. How convenient. This book is the kind of stuff anyone could write. The action basically reads like this. There was a gunshot. A bullet whistled past Roby. He ducked down and ran toward the SUV. Men with MP5s stepped out of the tree line and opened fire. Roby got into the SUV. Rounds stitched the body of the SUV, shattering several windows. Roby started the car and drove. A round struck the left rear tire, and the tire shredded. Roby fired back at the gunman, taking out one and then the other. This is not an exact quotation from the book, but it is a very close facsimile of what the writing is like. Didn't you just feel the harrowing tension and adrenaline from that writing? This is a book where you actually want the characters to die. This is a book where every time they are in danger, you tell yourself, as a joke, good, I hope they fucking die. You just know that they won't. But you wish that it could be so. Here we have another stupid sentence that I just caught. This is in regards to a fired sniper bullet. The bullet cleared his body and thundered out of his chest. Let's just break that down. Really, do bullets that pass through a person thunder when they fly out of their body? The only thunder-like sound could be the shot itself, when the gunpowder explodes inside the shell casing that propels the bullet, and maybe a clap of a sonic boom if the round is supersonic. Bullets don't pass through a human body and then thunder out of it. What the fuck would cause the thunder sound as the bullet exits the body? I can only wonder just how much more of this shit is in the book, and how much more stupid writing there is, but I'm just not going to search for it all. Let's have a glimpse at the acknowledgements page for this guy. Of all the people who helped him. Look at all these fucking names that supposedly assisted him. How do you get input from so many fucking people and come out with a stinker like this? I'm forced to do my shit all alone. I have no editors. I have no proofreaders. I have no one to give me advice. I have to put my brain into overdrive to make sure I can catch everything. And even then, I probably don't. I wonder if all these names are just a bunch of college interns that he hired, that he farms out all his writing to, and then just puts his name on it after it's finished. It seems increasingly writers do this all the time now, just farm out their work to a bunch of ghosts. Their name on the cover becomes nothing more than a brand. It used to be that writing was done as a form of art by a passionate, committed individual with talent. Publishing companies have now turned into mills, where they just have to pump out a book every year, or even several books a year, and the writing is bland, and reads like something computer software might have generated. In the future, that will probably be the case. Certain parameters will be plugged into a software, just certain blanks will be filled, and then the software will scour search engines for ideas, and then it will spit out a computer-generated draft of a novel that might require minimal editing by a person here and there, and that's how you will have your spy thriller. Obviously, this book must be better than my book, because it sold a hell of a lot more, has generated 5-star reviews, and Will Roby must have some kind of a following. I don't understand the appeal, though. You listen to this in audio format, and they have a bunch of special effect sounds of gunfire and motorcycle engines and car tires squealing, as if that's supposed to spice up the experience. What it really does is it shows that the book must really suck dick if you have to fill the audio version with gunshot sounds every time a gun goes off in the novel, and hope that it boosts or generates an excitement that's just impossible to feel from reading this. I do have to wonder if David Baldacci was playing Call of Duty or Battlefield, and into the microphone, by way of a pre-recorded message, he kept telling other players to buy his novel the hit. I wonder if anyone would buy it. Or would he have the same outcome I'm getting, as no one is buying it? None of the side characters jump out at you in this book. Well, not even the main characters jump out at you. They have no distinct personalities. It's just, it's written like, okay, here's the director of the NSA or something, and then they just give his name. Or here's another government bureaucrat, and here's his name. Here's a federal judge, and a name is given. And then these characters will sit and have dry, wooden dialogues together. You end up forgetting their names, that by the time the end of the book comes, and a twist is revealed, and a dramatic reveal, and it exposes who the bad guy was all along, who was pulling the strings, you actually have forgotten that this character was even mentioned in the book before. And he's such a one-dimensional character that by this point, you don't give a fuck. You can't give a fuck. Instead of going, oh, what a shock, it was this guy all along, instead, your reaction is like, oh, okay, whatever, and who was this guy again? I don't even remember him mentioned. It sounds like he's just another one-dimensional, middle-aged, top brass suit in the federal government. And that's all these characters are. None of them jump off the page at you. None of it is like, oh, this character is interesting, I can't forget him. No, it's like, I already forgot him, and he's not even done speaking. I just need to look some more at this melodramatic fucking writing that sounds like a little kid writing in fragmented sentences. This meeting was not scheduled. It really didn't have to be. I guess they're just cool with having spontaneous meetings because they are not really that busy, I guess. I mean, your guess is as good as mine here. It's funny how all these little sentences are chopped up and then separated into their own paragraphs. So each one has its own emphasis. The meeting was not scheduled. It really didn't have to be. Ooh. Next, it describes a man with hands like bricks and a torso like a wall. How could you not chuckle at this? Again, in melodramatic fashion, the next sentence becomes its own paragraph to tell us that his name was Anthony Zim. I think this technique is the only way that he can make his writing sound serious, is by having each sentence be its own paragraph. He did not go by Tony. Ooh, he doesn't go by Tony. Damn, that guy's all business. Why does this book sound like a little kid wrote it? Is David Baldacci using his kids to write this? His name was James Grider. He did not go by Jim. In addition, you could make a drinking game out of every time they say off the grid in this novel. Going off the grid. And you will drop dead from alcohol poisoning. Then it has poorly, stupidly imagined things like this. Even sitting, he kept his weight balanced on the balls of his feet. The fuck? Is that even physically possible? There is no way you can plant your ass in a chair and keep your weight balanced on the balls of your feet at the same time, because inadvertently your ass ends up taking most of your weight when you sit down, and that's just, basic reality, that your ass is taking your weight. The balls of your feet cannot be taking your weight anymore. The balls of your feet at that point can only support the weight of your ankles, and that's pretty much it. So unless he's crouching, and his ass is not really touching the seat, but his legs are simply flexed in that position, there's no way he could be balancing his weight on the balls of his feet while sitting in a fucking chair. And then there's more shitty writing. He could move in an instant if he needed, and over the years he had needed to on many occasions. Again, ooh. Look, I can rewrite that better. I can rewrite it like this. If needed, he could move in an instant, and over the years, dangerous circumstances had forced him to do so on many occasions. Or there's a different way it could be rewritten. If needed, he could move in an instant, and over the years, dangerous circumstances had caused him to react with lightning reflexes on many occasions. I just made this piece of shit into a single sentence, and it flows better. And it doesn't have that stupid melodramatic effect of a little kid emphasizing and stressing every fragmented sentence that he puts down. To top it off, I actually added more information into that sentence to clarify things. I mean, for fuck's sakes, I should be employed as his fucking editor, and I don't have any qualifications. I never took any English classes or writing classes outside of high school. How many people assisting him, I'm sure, have actually gone to colleges, I wonder. And this is what they put out. No wonder this book is mind-numbing to listen to.